when my son was born, I had discovered that early childhood education is supremely important. It's actually fundamental to all skills and abilities that we develop in life. At Raising Superstars, what we do is we tell parents how they can make their babies and toddlers happy and successful in life. I had a lot of struggles in my life, especially having gone to schools and colleges where I was always surrounded by really smart kids. I used to always think, like, why is it that I have to, put in so many hours of effort to get like a good grade, while some people are just doing it effortlessly.
Suddenly, a lot of things just come into perspective when you look at it in this way.
Allow us to shamelessly ride on your popularity. Shark Tank. Shark Tank happens. What was that like?
We were offered one of the biggest deals on the show. So we didn't end up going taking the shark's money. I'll create a product that I will personally pay 25,000 rupees for. So I'll create a product that I'm willing to pay 25,000 rupees for. And if I can create that, then I can for sure find 100 people every month to pay 25,000.
I love the approach. I love the bite-sized approach.
It makes things real. Every child at birth is a genius. They're born with infinite capability. Infinite capability means, by definition, that they have more capability than any other person who has ever walked on planet. The brain starts cutting off abilities and talents that did not develop fast enough for the baby. Any person that you guys know who is good in sports or arts or music or studies or debate, whatever, right? They've always been.
You said it took you 5 months or 6 months of working 16, 18-hour days. What was that process like?
Yeah, that was, I don't know, I can do it again or not. I'm Raghav Himatsingka, founder of Raising Superstars. We've been doing this company for about 2.5 years now. I'll give you a little bit of an introduction about me and also how we got started in this company, what we're doing over here. So my background is that I grew up in Calcutta, was there till 10th grade, 11th, 12th. I studied in Delhi, then went to the US for college. Went to Georgia Tech for undergrad, graduated with highest honors, went to Stanford after that, came back to India in 2009. Joined my family business, did that for about, I think, 6-7 years before I started a company in trucking. I was doing a company called Truckle, which was into technology-driven trucking, ran that for 5 years until we ran out of money during the pandemic in 2020 and had to shut that company down. So essentially, that's when my journey with Raising Superstars started in 2020. At this point, I'd been living in Bombay for 10 years after college. And I moved back to Calcutta because my company had shut down. We run out of money. I was out of job, and I didn't know what to do. So it was me, my wife, and we had a 2-year-old son. We moved back to Calcutta, and literally at this point, I was like, okay, I probably would have to move back here to Calcutta and start something completely new, right? So I had no idea what I was going to do. Now, because we had a 2-year-old son, we were doing certain things with him in terms of early childhood development. And I'll give you the backstory over there as well. But we basically, what had happened was that when my son was born, I had discovered that early childhood education is supremely important. It's actually fundamental to all skills and abilities that we develop in life. And I had a lot of struggles in my life, especially having gone to schools and colleges where I was always surrounded by really smart kids. So I had no business being at Stanford and, uh, being in that environment. And I'd seen people do amazing things in Georgia Tech, in Stanford, and even in DPS Arkipuram, where I studied 11, 12. So, and I used to always think, like, why is it that I have to, like, put in so many hours of effort to get like a good grade, while some people are just doing it so effortlessly. And what I discovered is that it has very little to do with genes and everything to do with how your early childhood education shapes up. So, so when my son was born in 2018, I really wanted him to get all the opportunities from a very young age, right from birth, so that he doesn't have to struggle later on as I had to. So we started doing some things with him back in the day. And because of that, a lot of our friends started asking us, okay, what are you doing? We also want to do, are you following any program? Can we buy something? And we said, no, we've just started something of our own. So it was me and my wife. I was running another company anyway, but I had like researched into it, and I had told my wife, and together we were doing it with our son. So when our friends started asking for it, then my wife started consulting these friends of ours offline, like on the phone, one-on-one basis. And she spent like hundreds of hours talking to all of these parents. So now moving forward to 2020, when my company shut down, my wife had been doing this for 2 years offline, and I was out of job. And we said, okay, we are getting a lot of demand here. There's clearly a gap in the market. Nobody is doing this. Can we turn this into a more scalable company? At that point, she was like one person doing it, and it was not possible for her to take on all the clients that were coming to her. So that's when we started, and we started this company called Raising Superstars. And and that's what we've been doing for the last 2.5 years, where we've got a lot of success. Today we are catering to parents in about 160 plus countries. We are paying customers from 160 plus countries in the last 2.5 years. We're probably one of the few companies in the country who did their first 20 crores of revenue completely bootstrapped without having raised any funds. And that also had a lot to do with where we were coming from. We completely like pushed against the wall, and we had to make something out of our lives during the pandemic.
Let's go back to Raghav. Let's go back to like there's so much information in a small packet, right? So let's go back to I'm from Calcutta. I moved to Delhi, then I went to Bombay, then I went to the US, then I came back to Delhi, and then I came back to Calcutta. Cycle, right? It's like crazy. So how was going to Delhi at such a young age from Calcutta and then moving to Bombay, and like what was that experience like for you?
So I went to Delhi for 11, 12. And then from Delhi, I moved to the US for college, undergrad and postgrad. And then after US, I came to Bombay. So I moved from US. I moved to Bombay in 2009 because I didn't want to live in Calcutta. Now the reason I went to Delhi is also, so I don't know. So basically, what happened was that I was in Navatnya in Calcutta till 10, and literally I was never in the top 5. Even in my own section, right? Like we had 3 sections or 4 sections, and I was never in the top 5 in my own section. I was still good in studies, but never there, right? But in 10th, as I said, I work hard, right? Like 10th, I studied really hard or whatever. I put in the work, and I was 3rd in the entire school. So from not being top 5 in my own section to 3rd in the entire school. So when you do well, then people start giving you random pieces of advice. So then people start saying, "Arey, you should go to IIT, ye to engineer banega." And at that point, I had no idea what an engineer was, to be honest. My impression of an engineer was somebody who like fixes computers and all. I'm like,
I became an engineer. I still don't know what an engineer is.
So I mean, at least after studying engineering, I know that engineering is hard. At least itna pata hai. But so they said, you should go to IIT and ye to engineer banega. And I'm like, IIT kya cheez? I had no idea what IIT is. Then people started saying, oh, IIT is this, IIT is great, IIT is the best, we're only the smartest kid get in, blah, blah. You should go to IIT. I'm like, acha, but from my school in Calcutta, nobody goes to IIT, right? So I had no idea. Like, 11th, 12th, I never saw any of my seniors saying I'm going to IIT or I have gotten to IIT. I'm like, okay, if IIT is the place to be, then Calcutta is not the place to be, because nobody from that school is going to IIT. So even though people are going to like maybe Yale and Harvard, but they're not going to IIT. So then people said, okay, you should go to DPS RK Puram because everybody from there goes to IIT. I'm like, Acha, okay. So I moved to Delhi. I actually went to a hostel in DPS RK Puram, which was a really, really tough 2 years for me, very challenging. And yes, lot of people went to IIT from my batch. In fact, four people from my batch in DPS RK Puram were in top 100 of IIT. So really, like from one school, if you can imagine. But I had a very tough time, and which is why, like, so I basically wasted 2 years there because I was so short on confidence looking at all of these smart kids around me. I'm like, even if I'm average, I'm still very good because the kids are very smart. It's not on me. It's just because it's average of really like the top kids, right? But then I became like really, really average. So when I went to college, my whole agenda or motivation was that I was not supposed to be here. I was supposed to be in IIT or MIT. I didn't work hard. So now that I'm here, I need to because I mean, we couldn't afford it at that time as a family, right? And US colleges are expensive. So I'm like, now that I'm here and I'm spending my family's money, I need to make the best of it. So I put in a lot of effort and obviously graduated highest honors in 3 years. Did a lot of wonderful stuff there. And then because of which I went to Stanford as well. So yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing how you said Georgia Tech is not the place you're supposed to be, and you worked hard enough to be in an IIT or MIT, and Georgia Tech is not the place for you. So I mean, I understand.
it's not.
I understand the perspective, but at the same time, it's just a statement when you hear it, and it can be taken out of context, and a lot of people might be like, "What the hell? Why is this person sounding so pompous or boastful?" But obviously, when you take the context into play, it makes a lot of sense. So in fact, I had a very similar trajectory to you. I was in La Martiniere till the 9th grade, and then I went to Singapore. My reasoning for going to Singapore was completely the opposite. So again, academics and all were fine, but as you said, Calcutta is a very small city and not a lot of things happen here. So my parents were like, you're getting very comfortable in your life. Let's throw a challenge your way. And that's why I ended up going to Singapore. So I was relating a lot to when you were talking about your whole transition from here to and going to a place where a lot of the people were so smart that you were like, how much ever I try. And in fact, one of the teachers there said that that you were in an environment where there are so many kids and some are brilliant. And, even if you try your hardest, you are only going to be at your maximum level, which may not be as much as others. So that's a fact that I think everyone has to accept.
I'm saying that I'm not. This is not where I'm supposed to be. It's not a diss on Georgia Tech, right? Because Georgia Tech prepared me in a lot of ways, which Stanford couldn't. Because Georgia Tech is really hard engineering college. It's the program that I did in industrial engineering in Georgia Tech. Literally the #1 program in industrial engineering in the US for the last 30 years straight, right? So it's an amazing program. But what I was trying to say is that I didn't work hard enough. And that was the problem, right? So it's not on Georgia Tech, it's on me that I didn't work hard enough. And I don't even know why Georgia Tech offered me admission at that time. And funnily enough, I literally got into one college in the whole world. And I applied. It's not like I didn't apply. I applied everywhere. But if Georgia Tech had not offered me admission, I would probably have to drop a year. So that's how bad it was, which is why I was saying that this is not where I was supposed to be, meaning I did not work hard enough. I was supposed to work hard, but I did not. So let me make up for it now that I'm here. So in fact, my confidence at that time, was that, and it was now looking back, it was just like unreasonable. But my confidence was that everybody in US, if you guys know, professors give you your grades on a curve, right? And they say that X% will get A or whatever. And so people look at the professors, they see their history, which course they should do, etc., based on which professor has a more lenient curve. And I would not do that. I would just be like, boss, is the professor is going to give 1A, that's going to be me. So, so it was unreasonable, and but it was just like I knew that I had wasted 2 years, and I'm like, okay, cannot happen. It cannot happen again, because and I had a very settled life in Calcutta, and I left it, went to a hostel, spent 2 years, wasted my life. And it's not like I wasted my life doing all the wrong things. I was just studying. But in my mind, I was thinking that I'm average and it's okay to be average, which is what killed me after I went to college. I'm like, okay, that feeling should never be there. It's okay to be average if you didn't try hard enough. If you tried hard enough and you didn't get there, it's fine.
So your imposter syndrome lands you at Georgia Tech, which is a very nice college, to be honest. At Georgia Tech, your continued imposter syndrome, you thrashing yourself, lands you at Stanford. How was the experience at Stanford?
So Stanford was life-changing, right? Stanford was just unbelievable, because when I went to Stanford, I didn't have any of that Georgia Tech pressure anymore. That, okay, I need to do these things, I need to achieve, I need to perform, or, I didn't have any of the guilt of having wasted any time, etc. I went to Stanford, and I knew that I always knew I was going to come back to India. So I'm like, okay, and Stanford was a dream for me, because when I was in my first year of college, I went to Stanford. I was in the Bay Area, so I went to Stanford just to visit, and it was just so amazingly beautiful. Just the beauty was the dream for me, not the college itself. So when I went there, it was just like, okay, I've reached my dream place. But Stanford was life-changing, because it was, there's literally just one thing that I learned at Stanford, which is to ask yourself the question, what is the value that you're creating? That was the only question for the entire time Stanford would ask every professor, every college, every lecturer, every student is just asking you that question. Okay, so what is the value that you're creating? Like, you're doing this, but what is the value that you're creating? In Georgia Tech, they would not ask that. They would be like, okay, first complete the task, then we think what value was created. Here it was like, what is the value that you're creating? So what happened was that when I came back from Stanford to India, joined my family business, and every second day I used to ask my dad, what is the value I'm creating? The family business was running without me. And it's not like I came here and the revenue suddenly shot up by 20%. So what is my value? And because I kept asking that question, we ended up creating like 150 crores of new business in my family business. Because at one point, my dad was like, okay, you go and do what you want, right? So I ended up creating that. And then again, then after some time, it, started plateauing off. So again, I started asking, okay, what's the value I'm creating? So I left that and started my own startup company called Truckle. Then, so that I think carried with me, or even still today, it carries with me from Stanford in terms of what I learned there.
So you want to tell us more about Truckle and what that did?
All right. So so Truckle was basically a Uber for trucking model. And for long distance cargo transport. So my family business was in trucking, so I had experience of the trucking industry. I knew the clients, I knew the vendor side. So what we would essentially do is, if you want to ship one truckload of goods from, say, Bombay to Delhi, then we would come and you could come on our tech platform. We had a mobile app. We also had like a desktop app. And you could order your trucks just like you would order Uber. And we would arrange the truck, sourcing it from truck owners, and then deliver your cargo safely and timely to the destination and provide you the end-to-end service. So it was like pretty straightforward model, lots of challenges, but straightforward model.
I actually have a very interesting question for you. What gave you the clarity of, I want to be back in India? Was it your family business, or was it the drive to do something in India in the future?
No, I think it was never in question, because that's how I was raised. that I have to come back to India. So I never questioned it because it was something that I was just like made to believe while I was young enough where I was not questioning things. And it's not like I'm regretting that or I wanted to be there or anything like that. Because even today I'm like, I was supposed to be back because I'm very close to my family anyway. I'm very close to my parents. My parents have supported me a lot. I'm also very close to my all my extended family. I relate with them. I think if I had stayed there, then it would have been a little bit of a more of a lonely life. It may or may not be true for others, but for me, it would have been because I'm a little bit of an introvert. So I would not make efforts to not be lonely, I guess.
The follow-up I have is that you say you made 150 CR of additional business for your family, right? What's the value that I'm creating? Which means that your family business is at a significant level. It's a big business, right? How do you break out of something like that? How do you break out of my business is huge, but I need to do something new for myself?
Yeah, so you need a lot of support from your family, firstly. And that your family should give you like their unconditional support. Unconditional support is not just, okay, go and do it, but go and you're doing it. And when things are not going well, your family is not questioning you or not giving you the chance to second guess. Yeah, cha, maybe you should come back to the family business and not doing that. So you are doing your thing and you are doing your thing without any of the second guessing, right? So and to be able to do that for 5 years, I think is a huge thing. That's one. Second is the belief that the collective belief, your own belief, your family's belief, that this could someday be maybe 100x of what we are doing as a family today, right? So that belief, that ambition, that hope, that desire to create that kind of impact. I think collectively, everybody should, if they are supporting you, your wife, your family, your parents, your siblings, that kind of thing, right? So that's the second thing. The third most important thing is also that uh, my father was uh, very active, very involved in the business. He had full control of the business as well. So it would not be detrimental in any way if I wasn't joining the family business right away, right? So I had that window of maybe 5-10 years where I could try and do something which probably becomes much bigger than the family business, or if it doesn't, then there's no detriment because somebody else is taking care of that business, and you can come back to it if it doesn't work out. So that safety net is also huge, I think.
I think the point that stands out to me the most is that the support system that you had in terms of your mentally, in terms of your family being supportive in I know more active way as to collectively having that desire with you, as well as them providing that safety net for you in the form of your father who was handling your family business. And your family's basically really helped you get out as well, and they've understood your desire very. And this is all from a personal standpoint. This is all stemmed from your desire or your question: where am I creating more value, or what value am I creating?
Yeah. Yeah, I think um, so. Um, so I would say the two things that have been most important in terms of intangibles are my family and Stanford. Uh, in terms of whatever I've been able to do in my life so far, but that 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 sort of desire and belief got created at Stanford, and because you see people who are, I mean, for example, like the Instagram founders were like my class, Stanford, right? Like you come back to India after 2 years, they've sold Instagram for $1 billion to Facebook. Kind of stories are absolutely real. Like at Stanford. You're sitting in graduation ceremony. You know that guy was sitting somewhere in that crowd, and 2 years later, he's selling a business of $1 billion, right? So, and it's not just not Instagram. It's like Instagram, it's Snapchat, it's so many companies, right? So many companies that we don't know about, but when you are at Stanford, you know about them because they are not like maybe the Instagrams of the world, but they're still like 200, $300 billion companies. But you knew about them because you had common friends or you knew the people directly as well. So that gives you a lot of belief. And then when that kind of belief, you talk with somebody with that kind of conviction, and you say this is the process to do it. Even if you don't know the process, the other person thinks, maybe he's learned something. So, so I mean, when I came and I started talking about these things and startups and all that with my family, with my dad, with my family, with other people, I had no idea. Like maybe I was like 10 on 100, but they were 0 on 100. So 10 is still more than 0. So they thought, okay, shayad isko pata hai. But like I did not know anything. And I have learned in the last 10 years being in the startup world, I have learned a lot of things through a lot of mistakes. But at that time, it just felt like they were backing the right horse, I think. So that was it. So I would say, yeah, family and Stanford, both of them collectively sort of contributed.
In their minds, they were backing the winner that they knew about.
Yeah, that they knew they could. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So you get to Truckle and the business doesn't do well. Is that right? The business
It did
doesn't make money.
average. It did average. So we did 60 crores of top line. We had 90 employees at one point. It did average. We were in the middle of a fundraising round when the pandemic hit. So then when the pandemic hit, revenues went to literally zero. And then we knew that we had reached the end of our journey. And we still had money in the bank, but we returned it back to all the investors, whatever money we had. So, but yeah, it was not as per the expectation. And I think part of the reason was also that the business model itself turned out to be flawed because there were a couple of other companies who had like unicorn status, etc., in that industry, and their businesses also didn't pan out so well. So I think overall it was in best interest that we got out of that business when we did.
So how do you lift yourself up and dust yourself off?
Yeah, you're pushed against the wall and you have like you need to push back. So as I said, right, it was me, Shraddha, my wife, and my son. 3 of us, we moved back to Calcutta, having lived in Bombay for 10 years. Moved back to Calcutta in our parents' house, and with my parents, my brother, his wife, all of us moved back, and we had no company, no job, and we are stuck in the lockdown. And then these conversations started happening, right? Like, so now what? Now what are you going to do? Because the company is shut down. Now what are you going to do? And at that point, also, I mean, it's now I'm thinking about it for the first time, but it's funny. But I remember being very confident at that time that I will create something in 3 weeks' time. So that was the logic that I was telling. That was the logic I was giving everyone, that I'll create something in 3 weeks' time and it is going to be a really hit product. And I kept saying 3 weeks, but it didn't happen. So because the lockdown was 3 weeks, right? So I'm like, lockdown aaya, now this is my chance. Like I'm going to work 18 hours, but I'm going to create it. And I was actually working like at least 16, 17 hours in a day. I wake up in the morning at 8, work till 12, wake up again, work till 12 in the night again, and so on. Because there was nothing else to do anyway. But the 3 weeks, what happened was I didn't create it in 3 weeks, but lockdown kept getting extended. So I'm like, oh, okay, I have 1 more week, I have 2 more weeks. Lockdown kept getting extended. It took me like, I think 5 months or 6 months to launch it. And but Because I was keeping myself busy, I think, and everybody was just like resigned to the fact that we are in a lockdown. So there was gloom everywhere anyway. So it wasn't like I was feeling especially gloom and everybody is like happy and, so that I was sort of protected again, and I was with my family, very close to them. My son was there, so ठीक है वो हो गया. Like, yeah, it wasn't that bad.
Sorry, just one last question about Truckle before we move straight into raising superstars. How do you make the decision that, okay, this is it, it's time to call it quits? It was a 3-week lockdown at the end of the day. So, as you said, it kept getting extended.
Yeah. So we didn't decide it in the first. So here's what happened. In Truckle, we pivoted our business model 2-3 times. The last pivot happened in September 2019. September 2019, we said, okay, this is it. We are all or nothing, right? This is what we are going to do, and we are going to go all out. So we start from September, October, November, December, Jan, Feb, every month growth, right? Till Jan growth. Feb, stagnant. Feb, same numbers as Jan. I'm like, how did that happen? And we start talking to our customers why orders are less, etc. And they say something is happening in China. Feb 2020. Something is happening in China because of which export-import market has a little bit shifted. And what is happening? Some coronavirus is come. Okay, so I start Googling, okay, coronavirus, something is happening in China. China is facing some troubles. March comes around. March becomes, first couple of weeks becomes lower than Feb. So I'm like, okay, this is something serious. So I'm not looking at news. I'm not looking at anything else. I'm looking at my business. And I'm like, this is something serious for sure. Then Maharashtra government announces things like only 50% attendance allowed in offices. They announce things like malls to be shut for this period of time. And I'm like, okay, this is going to go forward towards a lockdown. So even before Modi has come and said, okay, we are going to observe what. So it was first 1 day of lockdown, if you guys remember. The first thing was 1 day of lockdown. Then and then he said 2 weeks of lockdown just for, he did a trial run first. So when he announced that, I knew before that it happened, that I knew he was going to do that. So it was not called lockdown then. I was thinking in my head, there'll be curfew. Because of the way the Maharashtra government was acting, right? Like with 50% attendance, blah, blah, blah. So I knew this is going to happen. So anyway, now, so we already told our employees, boss, this might happen. It might impact our business, and we might have to do some work from home, etc. Then the lockdown happened. Revenues literally went to zero, and we had fixed costs, which means we had to pay salaries. And fixed cost was quite high, and we calculated that if we have zero revenues, and if we have to pay salaries, even if we reduce salaries or whatever, we will run out of money. Because now what happened was that we were in the middle of fundraise at that time, and all the companies that all the VCs that we were in talks with, they came back and said that we are now focusing internally on our portfolio companies. We want to see how this goes. And then obviously everybody started putting their money in the lockdown businesses like EdTech and software, etc. Nobody is interested in trucking during the lockdown because trucking is a full physical business. So that happened. And then we said, okay, A, we are going to run out of money. B, now even if lockdown goes away, this is after 2-3 months of lockdown, even if after lockdown goes away, we need to show growth again from zero for the next 7, 8, 10 months. And then only we can be eligible for a new fundraise, which is not going to happen. We will not reach there. So we said, okay, we have this money. It's best that we return the money back to investors instead of just like consuming it and wasting it away. So we gave each of the employees sufficient notice. We gave them severance and remaining money. And we collected all the monies from all our clients, which was pending. And we returned all the money back to investors, which we thought was best for employees as well as stakeholders. Obviously, we didn't get anything in that. Founders got zero.
It's impressive to hear the way you were able to be analytical about it rather than emotional about it. Because again, when you start your own company, it's like your own little child. So it's amazing. I mean, it's really impressive that you are able to be that analytical and just look at the numbers and be like, okay, something's not working, and here, this is what you're going to base it off of.
Lockdown was a strange time. So you were taking decisions through different kinds of lenses, which you would probably not do in normal times.
I would like your view on fundraisers. I've seen that your company, your mindset is very geared towards a fundraise, and you see that as one of the better ways to have like exponential growth very soon, right? And I feel like that is somewhere from your Stanford education that comes through. So I would love your view on fundraisers.
So fundraise. So for Truckle, it was really important. It was important because we couldn't grow further without a fundraise. If we didn't raise funds, we would not grow further. And there were other companies who were very well funded. So in trucking, you are in direct competition with all your competitors. Unlike in education, where you might have a differentiated product, in trucking, the product is the same. You have to transport goods from one place to another. But in general, if you're asking me about fundraise, so the funds don't necessarily build a business, is my view. And it does not necessarily build a. You cannot go on infusing funds to go on increasing the business as well. So, for example, some businesses may probably achieve its terminal size, the biggest that it can be, in $50 million. Some business might take like $5 billion, right? So if you want to build like a Flipkart, or you want to build a Ola, or one of the grocery apps, you need a huge amount of millions of dollars of funds, because it is very operationally intensive. You need to employ maybe 50,000, 70,000 people, etc., etc. If you are building a software business, you probably don't need that much fund, right? Like, for example, I was talking about Instagram earlier. When Instagram got sold to Facebook, they had only 35 people, and it was sold at $1 billion. And $1 billion in 2014 was a huge amount. It's probably like $10 billion today, in terms, or not today, but last year. This year, the situation is bad, but 35 people building a $1 billion company, which is huge, right? So it totally depends. Now, what happens with fundraising is that it allows you to accelerate things, which a bootstrapped company will find very, very hard to do through profits or even through debt, because debt people will not give you, and profits are very small when the scale is small. So, I think the one problem that most people face is that they overestimate the market size. And that is the biggest problem with fundraise as well, because you are basing everything on future valuation. Future valuation is completely linked to market size and competitors. And if you overestimate the market size, that's it, right? Like, so for example, Byju's, all the problem that Byju's is happening is exactly because of that, because the way that they estimated it is that there are X number of kids in the world, and and Byju's will reach 5% of X number of kids in the world. Now, it might, I'm not saying it might not, but will it happen in 2 years, 5 years, or 50 years? That's the question, right? So can more funds accelerate that 30-year journey to 2 years? Probably not, in my view, because it will not come through ads. When you have more money, what you can do is you can do more ads, you can develop more product, but there are certain things that will take time, because you're trying to induce a behavioral change in the consumer, where they are used to going to schools and tuitions, and now you're wanting them to come online. It's a whole behavioral shift, like an Ola or like a Flipkart, right? Where from offline you're going to online. Even if you do everything, the industry as a whole cannot move more than 20-30% growth year on year. It's not going to happen. Behavioral change does not happen that fast, right? Unless it's just like moving from Facebook to Instagram or Instagram to TikTok. That's not a behavioral change. That's a platform change. So that's the biggest problem, estimating the market size, and you must raise funds as per what the market can support, which is also the problem that we face in Truckle. Everybody said that the trucking business is $300 billion in India, and it was just not the case. It's just a very, very small market actually.
So moving on to raising superstars, you said it took you 5 months or 6 months of working 16, 18-hour days. What was that process like?
Yeah, that was, yeah, I don't know I can do it again or not. But it was, so I basically gave myself an artificial deadline of 3 weeks. And so that's why I ended up like working so much, because I was struggling to meet that deadline, and I announced it to the whole world meaning my family, and I'm going to build it in 3 weeks. So yeah, but it was a lot of starting from scratch, right? So what I did was I said, okay, by the way, at that time, I was such a novice in these kind of businesses that I did not even know that you can run ads on Facebook and get a sale. I did not know that. I did not know that that's a real concept, that you run ads on Facebook and you can get a sale from it. I'm like, wow, the ऐसा भी होता है. But anyway, so the whole thing started from there. Somebody told me that, do you know people are earning a lot of money on Facebook by running ads? I'm like, Acha, how does that work? How can you do that? Because my idea of ads was that you see a TV commercial, you see an ad, but how are you earning money out of it? It's just like creating your brand, right? That was my idea of a Facebook ad. That, yeah, somebody told me that you can actually run ads and you can sell your product. I said, okay, if that is possible, then I can create a product where I don't have distribution costs. Otherwise, I'm just thinking like, how will I distribute? How will I even sell, right? I'm a 1% or 2%, me and my wife. So that was the genesis. And then what I thought, and here's where you guys were talking about earlier, how did you think about, starting your journey all over again? Basically, my logic was very simple. If I can sell it through Facebook, then I'll create a product that I will personally pay 25,000 rupees for. So I'll create a product that I'm willing to pay 25,000 rupees for. And if I can create that, then I can for sure find 100 people every month to pay 25,000 rupees. If I can get 100 people to pay 25,000 rupees, that's 3 crores in a year. If I can get 3 crores in a year as a 2-person company, that's enough of a start to take me forward. That was my whole logic. So I just need 100 people to buy it, right? And so, but my product has to be so good that I will pay 25,000 rupees and I'll find 100 people just like me. So that was the genesis, right? So that was the product journey. Okay, what will I pay? And I knew that I want to do something in early childhood education because there's a lot of demand for it. A lot of people are coming to Shraddha. She's not having time, and there's nothing that exists in the market. So that was that. So then I start creating that. Okay, this is what it should have. This is what I would want as a parent. This is what it should have. Blah 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 blah. But this does not look sufficient. I should add this. I should add this. I should give some physical materials. Then the parent will be able to do it with their kids. Blah blah. That's the product journey. Then comes the distribution journey. Okay, if you guys probably already know, nobody's going to pay 25,000 rupees on Facebook. So even though I thought that it was possible because somebody told me, but it's not, right? People pay maybe like 400, 500 rupees on a Facebook ad directly, like a cold audience. So I actually spent a ton of time understanding marketing. Like, how does marketing work? What should be so this I was doing even in Truckle, but I spent literally, I think 1 year, 1.5 years studying everything about marketing. Or consumer behavior, consumer psychology. and how to sell to consumers. But obviously, the product is the key. So if your product doesn't work, it might sell once, it might not sell the next time. So when we launched our product, first week on Facebook, we had 50 customers, not for 25,000 rupees, but we launched a very small 500 rupee product. 50 customers we had in the first week. But second week, we had 750 customers. So I was like, whoa, what just happened? And then Facebook put like a cap on our account to say you can't advertise more because we don't know what you're selling. You're a new account. So, and a lot of people are buying it. So it might potentially be like some scam that you're running. So we could have actually sold a lot more, but we didn't because Facebook put a cap on it, which is fine now. I mean, you hua. But then, so A, we cracked okay, how to sell. B, we said, okay, but now will the product work? And Shraddha and I used to answer every email, every posting, everything ourselves, right? So we used to get like maybe 150, 200 emails and posts every day, and we are answering it ourselves. So we knew what parents are wanting, what they are liking, what they are not liking. So we quickly iterated on that. And we built a process so that we get feedback on a real-time basis. And there's some changes we need to make on the product, which we made. And we also added like money back guarantee, etc., etc. And we found that the product is really working. So customers are actually loving the product as well. So when you had product and marketing both, then it became something that we knew we could scale.
I love the approach. I love the bite-sized approach. I love I have to do 3 crores, but 3 crores means this much in like 6 months, this much in a month, this much maybe in a day, this much in an hour. You know, that breakdown can really help you digest very big numbers very quickly. I feel like that's a very nice process to have.
It makes things real. Because when I was doing Truckle, I was like, okay, I want to build $1 billion company. And then it's just like a motivational thing. हाँ करना है, पर क्या करना है? कुछ नहीं करना है. Because everyone knows that $1 billion company will take 10 years to build, so you have nothing to do today, right? But when you know that you want to sell only to 100 people in a month, you know that you can sell 100 people to 100 people in 1 month next month. So let's get to work today to do it for next month. So yeah, because of that Truckle experience and because we were like out of job, we had to, do it in a manner which was very real. No dependence on like funds or we have to. The first thing that people think about when they do a startup is, chalo, एक pitch deck बनाते हैं, fundraise करेंगे. But we were like कि वो नहीं करना है, पहले product बनाना है जो customers को पसंद आएगा and उसको distribute करना है. So that our life was sorted. Otherwise, what would we do? So yeah, so once we did this, then I think within like 5, 6, maybe 7, 8 months, I came back to Bombay as well from Calcutta. I packed up my house, given up my office, everything in Bombay. Came back to Calcutta, went back to Bombay, moved into new house.
Product that I would buy would have a lot of my belief systems built into it, right? So I would love to understand your belief system for the youth of India, for the extreme youth of India, because you are aiming for that very, very small early development section, early child development. So what is your belief system? What kind of education should early childhood development have?
So actually, we never talked about what we do. What is the product? So let me tell you that, and I'll tell you exactly what you're asking as well. So at Raising Superstars, what we do is we tell parents how they can make their babies and toddlers happy and successful in life, right? And the way that we do it is through a mobile app where we give activities to parents. We give videos where we explain activities to parents that they can do with their babies and toddlers from 0 years to 6 years, so right from birth up till 6 years. in 5 minutes a day without any screen time. That's a value proposition. Now, in terms of beliefs, there are two aspects to it. One is what does the science say, and what do we want to do with the science? Now, the science says that every child at birth is a genius. They're born with infinite capability. Infinite capability means, by definition, that they have more capability than any other person who has ever walked on planet Earth in history of planet Earth, right? What happens is that, I'm going to take half a minute to explain the science. Basically, what happens is that at birth, a child has about 100 billion brain cells, neurons, which are not connected with each other. When the baby comes into the world, they get all the sensory stimulus, from visual stimulus, auditory stimulus, etc. And these brain cells start firing, and they start connecting with each other through what are known as synapses. So synapses are brain connections. Now, synapses are weak connections, right? So they are like this and not like this. So they're like this, right? Over time, so at around 2 years of age, the brain becomes a huge mess because there's so many synapses that are formed, and the brain starts cutting off these synapses in a process called synaptic pruning. So it just breaks off the synapse to make it efficient, right? So it wants like more streamlining. And it's essentially like the brain starts cutting off abilities and talents that did not develop fast enough for the baby. So all the synapses that did not have repetition, that did not have strong stimulus and were not strong enough, they just break. And this happens up till 6 years of age. So this is like the very basic level science I told you. So essentially what this means is that if you can provide the right stimulations to a baby in that time frame, you can create strong synapses, and these strong synapses will help build the fundamental abilities for life. And which is why, if you think about it, any person that you guys know who is good in sports or arts or music or studies or debate, whatever, right? They've always been good throughout their life. Nobody goes from being a 29-year-old to a 30-year-old and suddenly becomes a good sportsman. Bad singer is always a bad singer, because knowingly or unknowingly, they have developed these skills at their very, very early years, right? So, and I mean, there are also a lot of other examples. Adults cannot learn new languages. Kids can learn 4 or 5 languages very, very easily. We can't learn like foreign languages and all. Anyway, so that's the whole belief. Now, in terms of what my beliefs are completely from my personal life, right? Which means that I hated homework. I hated like studying for 12 hours, 10 hours. And I was extremely envious of all the smart people around me in DPS, in Stanford, at Georgia Tech, who did not have to try hard, and who could still manage to get all the fantastic grades, get into IIT's top rank and all that. I also, as a person, I want that my child should be versatile, should be able to do whatever he wants to do, right? So, so my personal belief is that for parenting, that every child should have the opportunity to be whatever he or she wants to be in life. So they should have what we call in our company sakshamta. So we have a concept called basics. I can explain it to you later. But it's the child's sakshamta. Sakshamta is basically confidence, capability, and competence. Right? This is what we want to develop. And we want to do it in a manner which is completely stress-free and pressure-free, both for the child and for the parent. It should be really fun, really convenient, which is why it's only 5 minutes a day. And but they should have the potential or the power to be whoever they wish to be as they grow old.
Do you think people are screwed up if they don't do it at an early age?
It's not like they are screwed up, but it's just that they have a ceiling in their lives on how much they can achieve, right? So, for example, a very, very simple example, right? Like if you haven't studied, if you weren't good in math for the first 10 years of your life or first 12 years of your life, you're not going to get into IT. It's not going to happen. आप जितना भी ट्राई कर लो उसके बाद वो नहीं होने वाला, right? So because that math ability, and especially compared to all the other people who are also competing with you, will make it very, very difficult. I'm not saying that you will not be good at math. You can't be good at math later. You can, but you have reached a certain ceiling in your life. Give you another example. It is said amongst musicians. So in music there's a concept of absolute pitch and perfect pitch. Just for the audience, the difference is that when you hear a musical note, and if you can tell which note that is, whether it's a C note, D note, G note, F note, whatever, then you have perfect pitch, right? But if you need to hear two notes to say how they are related, then it is called relative pitch, right? So you hear C and you hear G, you know that, okay, this is C, then that must be G. So that is relative pitch. Now, it is said that to develop perfect pitch, you can only develop perfect pitch if you developed it before you were 2 years of age. As an adult, even if you're a really great musician, most fantastic musicians of the world, they don't have perfect pitch. They have relative pitch because they didn't develop it early enough. So it's not even like my belief, it's science. That there are certain things, if you are not born in Japan, by the way, if you're not born in Japan, and if you move to Japan after, I think, 1 year or 2 years old, even if you learn native Japanese, there are certain sounds that you can't speak as a native Japanese person. It has to be that early, that you have to be in that environment. There's certain sounds in Japanese language which you'll never be able to speak. And as an adult, we'll never be able to do it anyway. But even if you were there from a child, if you were not there before a certain age, you would not be able to speak those sounds. So all I'm saying is that A, you're not screwed up. B, it's not like you can't learn anything as you become older. You can obviously learn, but there is a ceiling that is reached in certain skills. And the more technical the skill is, the lower that ceiling would be. The more broad, non-technical that skill is, the ceiling would be still higher.
So if I had to explain this, our brain is essentially doing efficiency testing on ourselves. Whereas whatever is being used the least, it is limiting that. Whatever is being, when you're giving it the particular stimuli, or whenever you're stimulating a particular skill more often, especially when you're younger, the brain recognizes that, okay, this is something that is stronger, the connection that is formed is stronger. So the efficiency, like whatever the efficiency testing that our brain runs on itself, passes. Whereas things that you do not provide stimuli to often enough, the connections that are formed are not strong enough. So when they're doing that, the connections are broken.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's a different way of explaining it, but yeah, essentially it's use it or lose it. The brain has given you all the ingredients for all the talents in the world. Either you use it. If you're not using it, it will be discarded, right? So I mean, we use a lot of analogies in our company to explain this concept. So we say that, say you have a treasure chest, okay? Yeah, you found a treasure chest. That treasure chest is full of gold coins and bronze coins. Now you found it on the beach. You need to take it home. It's too heavy. You can't carry it. So what do you want to do? The brain is messed up. It can't carry it. So it wants to cut off something, right? So it's too heavy, can't carry it. So one way to do it is to randomly throw away coin, make it lighter so that you can carry it. But ideally, what do you want to do? You want to throw away the bronze coin and keep the gold coin, right? So it's like that. So the brain is randomly cutting off things, and it will obviously cut off things that are easier to cut. So the process is called synaptic pruning. So if it is too strong, it will find it hard to cut. Whatever is easy, it will cut it. And what we want to do is we want to guide the brain such that it retains all the gold coins from the treasure chest, right? So it retains all the abilities and talent that we want it to retain. So we develop those kind of stimulus in a stronger way, and it can cut off the other synapses. By the way, synaptic pruning is a very natural process, and it is actually good for the development of the brain. If it does not happen, it can lead to issues. So we want synaptic pruning to happen, but in the natural course of things. But we want to guide it so that if the brain knows which synapses to cut, which synapses to retain.
I would have thrown away the chest and sold the bronze coins as, rare items on eBay.
Sure, if you can find that on the beach.
No, I think this makes so much sense when you think about so X person is a prodigy. That person's parents has nothing to do with that particular field, but somehow this suddenly a lot of things just come into perspective when you look at it in this way. And I mean, at least for me, it's clarifying a lot of things, and it's really interesting. So
yeah, I mean, for us, we don't necessarily want the child to be like a prodigy, right? Prodigy is just a terminology that we use, but it's usually when you think of a prodigy, you're thinking of somebody who is like a super genius, who's a little bit ahead, more mature for their age, has probably gone through a lot of pressure in their life. Those kind of things we don't do. So we don't allow for testing. We don't allow for benchmarking of kids. You are in the 99th percentile. You have to pass this test. You have to take this test. There's no testing. There's no pressure. There's only 5 minutes a day. There's no screen time. What we want is that every child should have that opportunity, because by the time they've grown older, they're like, yaar, now for me, like if I have learned of this concept at this age, I'm like, now my window is gone. My window was 0 to 6 years. So we don't want that to happen. We want that the child should get all the opportunities so that when they are older, they have that opportunity to be whoever they wish to be and not be constrained by that feeling that we're talking about.
I don't know. My reason for specifying prodigy was just basing it off of whatever you said, is that probably for them in that specific field, their the connections that their brain was forming were much stronger as a kid compared to the others around them, which is why probably they had a better go of it, or they had that ceiling that was not limited. So that was my way of referring to it, not the pressures. And I'm not talking, I mean, I for one, I'm pretty very against testing, and I find it a real fast, but unfortunately that's the way of the world that we live in.
So allow us to shamelessly ride on your popularity. Shark Tank happens. What was that like?
Shark Tank was it was just an amazing experience. It was really a lot of fun, I would say, and also it was great for the company as well. So I think first of all, Shark Tank has done an amazing job. The production quality is super. The production team is amazing. It was an all-girls team when we shot last year. All-girls team, and they ran it so efficiently, like 5 or 6 people, but they knew everything about every company, right? Like, so you go to them and they know who you are, what your company is, what your pitch is about, what your props are, what you're wearing, everything, right? So it's amazingly run, and it was so much fun in terms of huge set, and you are in the spotlight completely. Non-scripted, by the way. That's a question that a lot of people ask. But in terms of what it did for our company is that it gives you an immediate visibility. And we were lucky that the show also became such a big hit. It gave us immediate visibility. Plus, it bridges that trust factor, most importantly, like I wish every new company faces, right? Especially when you're trying to do something new and something that sounds fantastical and may come across as too good to be true, right? So when we say these things, we know in our heart, we know that in the science backs it up, but it might still come across to an average viewer as, why did I not hear of this before? Or it just sounds too good to be true. Is it somebody doing a scam or whatever? But when you come on a platform like Shark Tank, You showcase what you're doing. It bridges that trust gap. And so that was huge for us in terms of brand awareness, scale, revenues, all of those things. Yeah. So I think like going off of that, there are so many things that we want to tell parents, but we have to like, sort of de-embellish our language so that we don't come across as too good to be true. Even though everything is real, we still can't say all the things that are real. So yeah.
I think that's another thing of the world we live in today, that because you get so much information, you're bombarded by so much information. At the end of the day, you're like, if this is so simple and this is something that is scientific and people are doing research into this, why are we not hearing about it more often? Why are you the first mover in it? Or why are you someone who's doing it? Why aren't there 20 or 30 other companies like yourselves who have done this research and who are wanting to get? So I think it's an unfortunate scenario that we live in, but yeah, I think Shark Tank does come with that tag of verified. You get that instant trust. And was the environment at Shark Tank similar to Stanford? Were people asking you that question, that what value are you creating, or is that also just a given?
No. So Shark Tank, I mean, the mood at Shark Tank and was that, I mean, and a lot of people also told us that at the end of the day, Shark Tank is a reality entertainment show produced by Sony Television, right? So it's not like the purpose of Shark Tank is not to showcase the best companies and give them a platform to raise money. That's not the purpose. The main purpose is to entertain people. And in the process, they're also educating people. They're giving money to people. They're building companies. They're creating a MSME revolution. All of those things can be the secondary goals. The main goal is that they have to get the TRP. If they don't get the TRP, the show will not get a next season, right? So they bring on companies that also have a unique story. Apart from a really good business, they also have to have a really good story. So there are actually some companies that came in, which have no business but good story and a good entertainment factor, but the sharks are just like, what kind of companies is, right? Like, so that is also the case. So yeah, can't compare it with Stanford or the actual real VC world as well.
So you spoke about funding, and we spoke about this when we were getting introduced to each other, and you said you were offered funding on Shark Tank, how did that work out? What was the whole journey there? If you would be comfortable to share, that is.
Yeah, so we were offered one of the biggest deals on the show in season 1, which is we were offered 1 crore for, I forget what was the percentage stake, and we accepted the deal as well. But what happened was that we had shot the show in October, and the diligence team did not start diligence until many months later. So it was also the first season, so there was a lot of chaos. They were also trying to figure things out. The sharks were trying to figure things out, and diligence team did not start their process until much later. Then the diligence also did not complete until much later. Now, what happened in this process is that I think about how much? Maybe 7 months had passed, and by this time, our company had grown substantially. So we had grown 3-4x in revenue. Little bit to do with Shark Tank, but in the general process of our growth, also we had grown, and we were getting 10 times more money at 3 times more valuation. Not 10 times. In fact, we had offers for 20 crores of funding. We had been offered 1 crore in Shark Tank, and we were getting offers of 20 crores at 3 times the valuation, right? So we discussed with the sharks. We said that this is what has happened. A lot of time has passed, and we are getting these offers. So we would love to have you guys, but if you can coming in the same round as the others. And they said, no, we can't do that. We will stick with our original terms. So we didn't end up taking the sharks' money. The reason was because when you do any sort of capital infusion in a private company, it's a very long process. There's a lot of ROC documentation to do. There's shareholders agreement, signing process, etc., etc. So typically it takes, practically speaking, it takes about 3 months. And you can't do two different deals parallelly. You have to finish one deal and then only you can do the other deal. That's just how it is, right? That's just how the ROC process works. The other problem is that when you are raising money in a private company, you also have to do a valuation of the company with like a registered value or like a merchant banker or a registered value. So if you are at one instance, if you are raising at X amount, and then the next instance you are raising at 3X amount in a short period of time, that is also not possible because, I mean, how can the valuation just suddenly change in 1 month's time, right? So because of these reasons, we were not able to do the deal with sharks. So we didn't end up taking the money. We ended up taking money from other people at a higher valuation, and the quantum was also bigger. So yeah, so I mean, it was better for the company. That's the decision that we took.
So wait, you're telling me that when they give you the check on stage, that is not a real check?
Yeah, that's not a real check.
Can you break down the process a little bit? So the deal happens, they talk to you, they say, okay, we're going to give you the money. And this time, I do get that you did define it a little bit, but let's expand on what diligence really means. What does it, let's unmask it.
So here's the thing, right? Like you go into the Shark Tank studio, you're making a 3-minute rehearsed pitch, which means that we have memorized what we are going to say in those 3 minutes. So we say that in 3 minutes. And then you have like a 45-minute conversation with the sharks where they are asking you questions. And that is completely unscripted, right? So we have that. On TV, you'll see only a 10-minute segment because it's highly edited. But on the actual show or actual shoot, you are spending at least 45 minutes with them, right? Now, they have to make a decision in those 45 minutes. They have no idea about the background of your company or anything. They've listened to you, they've conversed with you for 45 minutes, and they've made a decision. Now, they've given you
So it's your 3-minute pitch and a 45-minute question answer. That's all.
Yeah. So they gave you like a token check, which is more like something for you to take back home, but it's not a real check. And then what in the diligence process is a few things. One is that they want to see that everything that you mentioned on the show, whether it checks out or not. So if you said that your revenue is 100 crores, it better be 100 crores, right? Because they've based their decision on the fact that you are probably telling the truth. So that's one. Second is that a lot of the companies that come there, they are not necessarily registered as a private company. They could be a partnership, they could be a sole proprietorship, etc., etc. So the company structure has to be in a manner where it can take in investment, outside investment, right? So conducive for that. And there are also a lot of issues with companies. Issues meaning there could be like past legal cases, past partnerships, or there could be, I don't know, cash dealings or whatever, right? So all of those things have to be checked out. So due diligence basically means that they will do a complete legal diligence. Legally, have you filed in your GST? Have you blah blah, blah, or whether you're compliant on taxes? Whether there are no legal cases against you? Whether you own the brand that you are selling, so whether you have the trademark on that, all of that. There's a financial diligence, which means that they will study your balance sheet and see what are your debtors, creditors, are accounts payable, receivable, banking, blah blah blah. And there's also business diligence. Business diligence is everything to do with, your business, what is the market size, blah, blah, what you have said on the show, whether it checks out. One, these three, typically, like, unless you have completely presented a false information, farcical sort of a pitch. Due diligence ke karan, these should not fail. But yeah, it can if these things don't go check out.
It's basically verifying everything you've said and making sure you check out on all fronts. Legal, financial, whatever you've promised, whatever you said on the show, whatever you've pitched to them. Basically making sure that whatever they're investing their money in is actually what is actually true rather than just something you made up.
Yeah. So it's like a very, very detailed audit process, but it's like much more than an audit process because, yeah.
They are at the end of the day giving you money. So they want to make sure every single thing that you check, it checks out.
Yeah, and they're giving you money without any promise of a return also, right? So they want to know that the people that they're essentially entering a partnership with unknown people. So they want to know who those people are.
I feel a key statistic for you would be how many kids have you reached and how many kids' lives are you able to transform in the near future. So where are we now? Where are we today? How many kids have you reached? And where are we on your follow-up episode next year with us? How many kids would you have reached? And in 5 years from now?
So I mean, currently we have about 500,000 kids around the world, about 160 countries around the world, who have been impacted by our programs in some manner or the other. And yeah, no predictions for the future on a public platform. But obviously we have lofty ambitions. The thing that we care about most is to make impact to be able to raise the next generation of kids in a manner where we are giving them the power to be whoever they wish to be, and have the power to create their own health, wealth, and happiness. That's what we say. But yeah, no, not putting numbers to it right now.
So in terms of your programs, what are the different kinds of programs that you have and how are they divided up? What is like some of the details of your program?
So currently we run programs for babies right from birth up till 6 years of age. And it depends on what age you are at. So for an older kid, we would have programs on reading, on math, on school readiness. And for a younger baby or toddler, we have like all-round development programs where everything is covered from physical development, music, creativity, problem solving, logic, even personality and character development, etc., etc. So we have what we call the Prodigy framework, which is a proprietary framework where we have mapped out every skill and ability known to human beings, and then we try to bring it down to the baby toddler level. In terms of the programs itself, the programs vary from like just a week-long program up to a year-long program. And the prices also vary from 500 rupees right up to even 1 lakh rupees. So depending on the length of the program, how much physical materials we are sending you, and what the program is about. We also have a recurring payment plan, where you can subscribe on our app and you get like a monthly access with activities on a daily basis, and it's like recurring. So you don't have to think about what program to buy, it's just on a recurring basis.
And all of these are activities that are done off screen. Like the instructions are obviously given through the app, but the actual activities with the kids are done off screen.
Yeah, so the child never has to interact with the app. We tell the parent we have videos for parents on how they should do the activity, what activity they should do. But then the parent has to go off screen and do the activity with their child. And then there are a lot of tools on the app to measure and record progress, to see what kind of things they need to do on a daily basis, of checklist, to-do list, etc., etc. But everything is for the parent, not for the child.
Gotcha.
Hopefully, Raghav, your app allows us to bring a lot of Sachin Tendulkars and a lot of Messis and a lot of Beethovens into this world.
I think it'll be good if that happens, but that's not necessarily the goal.
It allows people to have the ability, if they so please, to become Sachin Tendulkar or Beethoven or Messi or whatever else they choose to be. I think that's a better way that Raghav would like to frame it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should become themselves. Even Dhoni and Virat Kohli or Sachin Tendulkar cannot be compared, right? So all of them are their own legends. So we don't want to say. I think it's amazing to have role models because role models are great, and that role model can be somebody within your own family, within your own neighborhood as well. But you should be you. You don't necessarily have to be someone else.
Right. So basically give you the ability to go to to not limit your potential so that you can be
To
who
reach
you want to be.
your fullest potential. Yes, that's what we say. We will help you achieve your own fullest potential.
So I think that was very well put. And we have this tradition where you will ask a question to the next founder that will come onto our platform. And we will ask you the question that the last founder asked you. So the question we have for you is that what is the one contrarian belief that you hold on to that the rest of the world would not?
I don't know. It's a difficult question. Contrarian belief. I don't think I'm a rebel kind of a person. But I will say one thing, which I have been recently observing and in the last 1 year or so, and this belief is getting stronger with me, that all the cliches that we hear about entrepreneurship and startups, everything is so true. So everything is so true. It's unbelievable. And the problem is that because they've become cliches, people don't pay attention to them. But they are also true. Everything from startup journeys are lonely, they're going to be hard, or go out and meet your customers. Customer is king. These things you hear about, you're like, oh, whatever, man. Yeah, bahut sun liya. But it is true. It is true to its core. So whenever my advice is, if you see a startup cliche next time, please take a second, reread it, and think about what it's actually trying to say because it's true.